So, again, if you are not already open, you can go ahead and turn to Ruth chapter 3. We're going to do a little bit of a recap before we talk about verses 10 through 18. So we stopped last week right in the middle of Ruth's sort of mission impossible here, where Naomi tasks her with sneaking through the threshing floor, doing the sort of sneaking thing over Boaz's servants and getting to Boaz, uncovering his feet, not waking him up, and then lying down at his feet, essentially proposing and saying, hey, cover me with your skirt, literally the actual skirt, which is a proposal method in these times, and also reminiscent of Boaz saying, hey, I will cover you, find cover, find refuge under the Lord's wings. And so Ruth is co-opting that same phraseology in her proposal here. And so now Ruth has proposed, she's laid it all on the threshing floor, and we have been waiting all week to hear what Boaz is going to say, even on pins and needles. I know, except you're at the passage. So but it's fine. So let's go ahead and sort of get a big picture overview of what Boaz says to Ruth. There are going to be 4 sort of general sort of subheadings here. First of all, we're going to look at the blessing that he gives. There's a promise that he gives to Ruth. Then he introduces a complication. It's a very unhappy complication. But then he's going to give a reassurance to Ruth. And we're going to look at all of those tonight. Let's start off by just reading the entire thing, and then we'll break it down verse by verse. So if you're like, oh, that's really small, it's going to get bigger, I promise. So start in verse 10. And he said, may you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men, whether rich or poor. Poor or rich. I can read. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask. For all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman. And now, it is true that I am a redeemer. Yet, there is a redeemer nearer than I. Remain tonight, and in the morning, if he will redeem you, good. Let him do it. But if he is not willing to redeem you, then, as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until morning. Again, there's a lot in here, so let's start breaking it down verse by verse here. Start off at the very top with Boaz's blessing upon Ruth. And again, he said, may you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, and that you have not gone after your young men, whether poor or rich. So his blessing that he starts off with, notice that it matches the form of Naomi's blessing on Boaz back in chapter 2. Such a really interesting parallel here. But this breaks the tension, which has been up until this point killing Ruth, right? So she's been waiting this whole time. She's been, eyeing up the threshing floor. Then she finally creeps over. She's lying down. She's waiting. And then she proposes. She's waiting. And she's, and he's like, may you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. So the fact that he doesn't respond, what the heck, shows, first of all, again, his character. He is an honorable, upright man. And that the Lord's hand really is at work in this entire thing. That he wasn't just like, it's sort of nice that you're here, but we're not on the same page. He is tracking 110% with Ruth. May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. And as a couple of people were talking about, remembering last week how I talked about how some people say, hey, is there something, sexual going on here? Is Ruth propositioning Boaz? All of these statements that we're going to take a look at in here are showing very definitely that there's nothing weird going on. There's nothing immoral going on, that Boaz sees this. And he's been highlighted as a man of character, as a man of the Lord, as a man who honors the law of the Lord. So if he wouldn't be using any of this terminology, any of these blessings, if Ruth was up to something not so great. So, that out of the way, banish it from your heads. Nothing weird's going on. So, may you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. And the term my daughter is both showing that endearment, that comfort. It's the same word that Naomi uses for Ruth, so it's not weird. It's just that term of affection. And it's also reminding us of the age difference, that there is an age difference.
It says that right in
Yep.
there.
And this is going to come into play where we're going to see why Boaz is so very impressed by Ruth. But so just that language is there, so just keep note of it as we go through here. So again, Boaz starts off with blessing Ruth. But what exactly is he so out of his mind astounded by? Like, you're like, well, I mean, she was asking for, safety, and she's sort of asking you for things. So why is Ruth so impressive here? So let's take another look here. You have made this last kindness greater than the first. So what's the first kindness? If we're talking about this last kindness, what's the first kindness? There's some different suggestions, but most people think that, like we saw whenever Boaz first praises Ruth, that it's that she left her home, left her land, left her gods, left her hope, her future, everything to be faithful and loyal, showing that steadfast love to Naomi, her mother-in-law. And she was like, where you go. Where you still stay. Your God, my God. We're already right there. There's no separation between us. And Boaz was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And he's saying, okay, so that was the first kindness. Now, this is kind of wild, guys, because that's pretty big, right? That in of itself is a pretty big kindness. So what is he saying that is a greater kindness than the first? And let's pause on that word kindness there. The same word that we've been talking about for several weeks now. Let's shout it out. What has said. Yes, exactly. You guys got it. Has said, which is that loyal, steadfast, enduring love. Lisa, did you have a question?
When I had that as one of my questions.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out what it was. And then when I figured out what it was, he was referring to what she did for Naomi. And then that made me even realize what a more amazing guy that he was. That he is taking that almost like a personal kindness because she was so kind to somebody in his family. And I'm like, what guy would really think about it like that?
Yes. And it is amazing. And so we're recognizing both that Boaz is an exemplar of faith in the time of the judges, where we're noticing that people of the time are doing whatever they think is right in their own eyes. And the characters in the book of Ruth are meant to be a stark contrast to that. So we do see that Boaz is exemplary in this manner. We do see, too, that, again, we've talked about this before, but in biblical times, in the Jewish culture, and even in the Jewish culture today, even I would say, families were, I think, there's a lot more emphasis placed on family and family loyalty than oftentimes there is today. I mean, different subcultures, you make an argument like, oh, well, in this subculture, it's greater. But generally, in our Western American society, we're super individualistic. This family culture, family is the big deal.
I can say it still is for Jewish people today.
Yeah.
Like our landlords in Cherry Hill are Jewish, and the nephews in line for the company, they go to Israel all the time to visit family there. It's their world.
Yeah. And so, and that's a cultural thing that has continued throughout this time. And so if you're a faithful adherent to Judaism and to that worldview, then that's going to make sense for you. But I would say that, definitely Boaz meant to stand out as being exemplary in this way. So that was the first kindness. What's this most recent kindness, this most recent loyal love? Well, Boaz gives us a very nice hint because he says, in that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. Now, that's sort of simple, she hasn't gone after anybody else, but what does that exactly mean? So Boaz's comment here suggests that Ruth was kind of like a free agent who could have gone after somebody else. And this is both this comment and then later on whenever he says that, all the people of my gate, which we'll talk about in a second, all of the city elders know that you're a worthy woman, do suggest that, maybe other people were interested in Ruth. It's possible. We don't know for sure. This is
I think she's a beautiful girl.
This is conjecture.
She must have been really beautiful.
Yeah. It's possible, right? So
Obviously talked about.
She was only there for 2 months.
Even if she wasn't pretty, she was a hard worker, and what guy wouldn't want a hard worker?
That's right. That's right. So Boaz is at least making it sound like Ruth had other options. So she had other options available. She could have gone after somebody who was just sort of young in general. So again, we're creating that contrast, somebody who is young versus Boaz, who is not young. And think about, in this culture, you want somebody who's going to be there for you, being able to provide for you for a long time. So if you're thinking about in terms of investment, you're not a guarantee with somebody who's younger, but you got a better risk analysis there with somebody who's younger versus somebody who's older. So she didn't go after that potential security. She didn't go after somebody who was just sort of rich in general. Now, Boaz, we know, is well off, certainly. And we know he's also not, like, decrepit. Like, he's working in the field, he's pulling a sleepover. But, you know, he's saying you could have had these other people. You could have gone after somebody who was just wealthy. You could have gone after somebody who's poor. Now, why would you go after somebody who is poor? If you love them. Yeah. So he's saying you could have gone after a love interest. Yet you didn't.
Somebody who looked like Brad Pitt.
Right. Right. Or somebody that you were just drawn to, you know. But you didn't go after any of these things. Instead, you sought me. So something else is at play here. Remember, Ruth sought Boaz out as a redeemer, and she specifically uses the word, for you are a redeemer. And she used that term, goel, that we've been talking about. And so Ruth wants security not just for herself, but for her family, for Naomi, and for her dead husband and father-in-law. See, if Ruth married outside of the family, the line of Elimelech would end, and Elimelech's land would pass to whoever the next of kin is. It would pass out of that clan, that line would end, it was done. And for the Israelites, this was basically the worst thing that could happen, was for your name to be forgotten, for your line to end, for you to have no enduring impact on the world. And that was like the most devastating thing. And again, for us today, this is sort of hard for us to grasp because we're like, if you don't have kids, well, whatever. I mean, it's not a big deal. If you adopt kids, that's fine. Yeah, you can adopt. That's cool. It's not. You don't need to have your line passed. Yeah, it's fine. But in this culture, this is a huge, huge deal. So marriage to Boaz would, if they had kids, enable the preservation of Elimelech and Mahlon's name and memory. Right. Especially a boy child, exactly. So recognizing that that's the sacrifice is she's giving up any potential personal interest that she has in her future and what she wants out of the rest of her life. And she apparently had these things open to her. And now, she left everything behind, but now her future's laid wide open. And she goes, no, I'm going to turn aside from all of those possibilities and I'm going to pursue what is best for my mother-in-law and for my dead family that I married from, foreign land, right? Because to her, that was what was most important. She's showing that steadfast, loyal love. Again, Cindy.
I do agree with that too, but I still think that she was fascinated with him. How could she not be? She goes in and he notices her right away. He invites her to dinner with him. I mean, all that wonderful stuff he did with her from the very beginning, as soon as he saw her.
Yeah. So I think that it's very possible that Ruth did have affection for him. That there could have been. However, I'm going to push back a little bit because it wouldn't have been so impressive to him if he thought that she was head over heels for him.
I'm not saying this, but I just...
so I think that it's...
Isn't that what he's sort of saying, that you would pick me over them?
Yeah, I think he's been seeing guys go after her because they would talk to him.
It's possible. Mm-hmm.
And men are dumb when a girl likes them. Like, why would he think this 26-year-old woman likes a 56-year-old
right.
man?
Yes.
That's why she had to go do this.
Yeah. Right. Men are dumb. This is true. This is a true statement. And so I think that at least in Boaz's eyes, from whose perspective we're seeing, he doesn't see the interest. He doesn't see, and could it be there? Yeah. I'm not saying that it couldn't have been there, but what Boaz is seeing is Ruth's loyal love to Naomi, and that's what he's praising. That's what he's saying. Your loyal, steadfast love is so out of this world that it's even beyond leaving your family because you've forsaken all of these other options to pursue this old dude like me.
Offered it to me.
This old dude. Oh my gosh. So this is pretty incredible. Boaz is wowed out of this world. So what does all of Ruth's impressiveness cause Boaz to say next? So we start off with "and now." So "and now," this phrase is going to happen a couple of times in this passage. Each time it occurs, it signals a shift in direction. So it's sort of like a little bit of a pivot in the conversation. So it's like a highlight, "and now," road sign. "And now," again, my daughter, he's again reassuring her, my daughter, it's going to be okay. Do not fear. And this is just a really traditional, customary phrase that it's nothing special, out of the ordinary. Just don't fear. "I will do for you all that you ask." So he starts off with this solid assurance. Hey, you said that you were my servant. You lay down at my feet, put yourself in the place of a servant. But no, I'm going to do, again, that cool role reversal that we've been seeing this entire time. And Boaz takes the place of Ruth as the servant and says, no, whatever you have asked, I will do for you. Why? "For all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman." Lots of, so much stuff in here, guys. Kelly Minter did a good job highlighting the phrase "fellow townsmen" as being really correctly interpreted as "people of my gate." So if you're thinking about, again, in this time period, the gates were actually the sort of city central. It was the combination of like the townhouse and the courtroom, and this is where all of the trading would happen. This is where the business transactions went down. This is where the legal disputes happened. You'd go up to the city gates, you'd sit down, and you'd do business, all right? So the people of the gate were the people who would go to the gate and do the business stuff. So it was either like the city elders or the people who had standing in the town as full citizens so that they had ability to trade and make those legal decisions. So essentially, the important people of the town is the idea behind that phrase. So all the who's know that Ruth is a worthy woman. She is, right up there. Now, the phrase "worthy woman," we've seen a similar phrase earlier in Ruth describing what other main character? Boaz. So the same word for worthy is used to describe Boaz. Remember, we talked about that and we said, hey, this can mean like a mighty man of war, or this can mean like just sort of really honorable or rich. Well, we know that Ruth is not rich or a person of war, so it's that really honorable idea is what Boaz is highlighting here. And not only that, but he's elevating her to the same level as himself, because that's the exact same word that was used of himself. Really interesting here. And again, notice that he doesn't say, I'll do what you want because you're really pretty. I'll do what you want because I really like you. Ruth's character is what has just won Boaz over. And he's just like, you are a worthy woman. You essentially, we hesitate to say, well, you deserve this, because what do we all really deserve in the eyes of the Lord? Nothing. But Boaz is saying your conduct has been honorable, and in the eyes of the world, you deserve this. I'm gonna do this for you. All right. So we have these great butterflies. We're all happy. This is delightful. Do everything that you want because you're such an impressive person. And now, it is true that I am a redeemer. Yet, that fateful word. There is a redeemer nearer than I. Feel the heart sinking to the floor. All right? So, again, we have that term, and now another shift, another signpost that he's changing direction, his speech here. It is true that I am a redeemer. I love the phrase that it is true. It's really signaling that Boaz is just that honorable man. He's saying this is what is factual, this is what is correct, and I am a man of the law of the Lord, and I have to do what is honorable and right, and so it is true, and yet this is also true over here. I am a redeemer, yet there is a redeemer nearer than I. Somebody else was more closely related than Boaz. We've known about this, but now it's just sort of crushing all of our hearts, and we're like, no! So, did anybody else besides Boaz know about this other guy up until this point? Did Ruth know? Did Naomi know? So it's possible that they did know about him and they were just like, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and hope that Boaz just sort of takes advantage of it and goes for it. It's possible that Naomi just didn't know that, that this other guy was still alive, that he was interested, that he was going to think about redeeming the land. We don't know. But we know, interesting, Boaz knew, which is why I'm sympathetic to the idea. I don't know if Ruth was, over her head, but I think Boaz was very interested in Ruth, right? Because, yes, he's been thinking about it. He knows that there's a Redeemer who's more closely related. Comes right out of his mouth. There's this other guy. I have to think about this problem. There's a problem, but I've been thinking about it. I got a plan. So Boaz knows that there is a Redeemer who is closer. And that's the complication. But Boaz is great. So he has a reassurance to give to Ruth. Let's reread it here. Remain tonight, and in the morning, if he will redeem you, good. Let him do it. But if he is not willing to redeem you, then as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until morning. So, first of all, starting at the very top here, he says, remain tonight. And this is essentially just protection for Ruth. Both protection from her going out into the fields and getting assaulted, and then protection from her basically getting seen. So we're going to see later on next week. Sorry, I was working ahead, which is always a dangerous thing to do. So I'm like, is this week or next week? I think it's next week. We're going to see, he's again emphasizing this idea. He doesn't want to expose Ruth because, first of all, rumors, gossip, they're delightful things because those things can spread even if the core of the matter isn't true. And so nothing weird has happened, but the appearance of something weird going down could very well set some rumors abroad, and Boaz is seeking to protect Ruth's reputation. But there's another element here. Boaz is a little bit concerned, I think, that Ruth is going to have to end up with this other guy. And so he wants to protect her from the fact that she showed up at the threshing floor being a barrier, causing some weird tension, some strictures, causing shame to her, so that it messes up her ability to be redeemed. And I think that plays into this next phrase too. Because to me, guys, if he will redeem you, good. Let him do it. I don't think that's how we should read it. Because what it sounds is like Boaz is like sort of nonchalant, like, if he can do it, great. He takes it out of my hands, no problem, bye. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think he's trying to reassure Ruth and say, hey, you know what, this could be a possibility. And if he'll redeem you, it'll be good. Let him redeem you. If this is what happens, you'll be okay. But if he's not willing to redeem you, then, as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. And I think that this is the other context clue here to let you know that this is not nonchalant. The phrase, as the Lord lives, is a very strong, solemn oath. It's one of the strongest ones that you can make in the Hebrew language. So he's saying, as the Lord lives. If he doesn't do it, I promise, cross my heart, hope to live in heaven forever with Jesus, except he didn't say that. But that's the core of it, the strongest oath that you can make. It may not be the strongest one, but one of the strongest. I will redeem you. So it's a promise. Hey, if this other guy doesn't come through for you, I will. No matter what happens, Ruth, you will have redemption. You will be secure. You will be redeemed.
But what about the property? That's part of the redemption.
Yes.
You have to buy the property?
Yes.
You have to buy it from Naomi.
And we're going to talk about that next week.
I was just curious.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We're going to be diving super high into that, and it's so complicated. I'm so excited. I love talking about the complicated things, guys. I tear out all my hair, and then I sort of reinsert, and I'm like, it's fine. We're good. So, let's go ahead and, before we move forward, let's talk briefly. Let's touch on that point. So, it doesn't say anything in here about what Boaz is risking. Now, Boaz does have something to risk here, because we do have this whole thing with the land involved. And if Boaz marries Ruth and redeems the land, then that's an investment in property because he has to buy the land and I originally thought it was any children that are born to Ruth would go under Mahlon's name, but it's the firstborn. The firstborn son that Ruth and he have will be Elimelech Mahlon's line, and then any additional children would be under Boaz's line. But firstborn son gets what? Gets the inheritance. And so if he invests this money, and then, let's say that there's only one child even, then the line goes to Mahlon, the name goes to Mahlon, and the land goes back to Mahlon's family. It could disappear. He doesn't get to keep any of it. Now, we know that Boaz is honorable, and he is kind, and he also is showing loyal, steadfast love. So to Boaz, all of that is going to be worth it. He's like, you know what? Doesn't even matter. As the Lord lives, I will redeem you. But I want us to keep in mind that this is not a no-stakes game for Boaz either. This is big stuff for Boaz, too. So, let's slide forward here. Oh, it was this passage. Wow. So you guys crossed all my wires. So, let's read verses 14 and 15 here. So, she lay at his feet until the morning, but arose before one could recognize another. And he said, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. And he said, bring the garment you are wearing and hold it out. So she held it. And he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her. Then she, went into the city. Let's start at the top. She lay at his feet until the morning. So again, Ruth is just a sort of happy-go-lucky, okay, whatever you say. So she lays back down. And notice she lies down at his feet. Not next to him, which would have been suggestive and could be misconstrued and have all these weird things. But she lays again at his feet, again signifying, I'm your servant, but also preventing in our minds as the readers saying, hey, there's nothing sexual going on here. This is an honorable occasion. So lays down, but gets up in the morning, arose before anyone could recognize each other. And he said, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. So these two things are, again, Boaz and Ruth are, but especially Boaz, is very concerned about protecting Ruth, protecting that reputation, making sure that she doesn't come into question about her character, which she has already praised so highly. And this phrase right here is really interesting because people don't know who he's talking to. The previous verses, it's very clear that he's talking to Ruth. But, so he says, let it not be known. This is passive voice. This is not him saying to Ruth, don't let it be known. He's saying, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. And that's sort of weird. That's a weird thing to say to Ruth. So you're like, don't let it be known that the woman right here. You're like, that's weird. So there are a couple of possibilities. It's possible that Boaz said this to Ruth. It just feels weird. It's possible that Boaz said this to some of the workers of his field who woke up and saw that there was a woman there. It's possible. It's also possible that this is sort of like a writer's parenthesis, sort of like a note in the margin. That Boaz is like, hey, make sure it's not known. Somebody came to the threshing floor. Boaz really wants this to be emphasized. I don't know. I just don't know. Nobody could recognize each other, so it's possible that somebody woke up and saw that there was somebody there, but they couldn't tell who it was. And Boaz is like, yeah, there's somebody here, but don't let anybody know about it. That doesn't really ring true for me. The note in the margin sits best with me, but it does say, and he said, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. So pick your favorite interpretation, figure out something else. That's sort of, those are some of the thoughts around the phrase. Yes, ma'am.
I was about to ask, could it have been something that he mumbled to himself?
Yeah, definitely. I like it. We're going to go with that one.
Yeah,
Let it not be known. There's a prayer. Oh, Lord. God in heaven, please let it not be known. It's going to be so bad, man. I like it. Thanks, Don. So he has this sort of idea, like, hey, we have to protect Ruth. But then he says, bring the garment you're wearing and hold it out. So he held it out, and she held it out, and he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her. So he sent her away with this parting gift.
I think that was from a shawl.
So the word garment, yeah, so the word garment is really unique. It only occurs one other place in Scripture, in Isaiah, and it's in a list of other jewelry and clothing items, and so there's no way to tell from context what the word means.
Is it definitely a different word? You know, when Naomi says
it's a different word.
Clothes, it's different.
It's a different word.
Okay.
Yep. That was. I was hoping that it would be the same word.
Right.
I was hoping so badly.
We would have known then
Yes.
too. So.
Yeah. That's a really good thought, Noelle, though. So it is a different word. So it's not either the best clothes or the outer garment cloak thing, whatever that interpreted out to. It could encompass anything from shawl to headdress to sort of cloaky thing to scarf to. So there's lots of possible sort of ornamental interpretation words. I think shawl is fine. Like, out of all the possibilities, shawl seems to work. Yeah, she put it over her shoulder. She carried it home. It had to be something that wasn't excessively large, but nothing tiny. Like, it couldn't be like a face covering. Like, it had to be a certain size. So,
It was obviously something to put grain in.
right. Yes, it was big enough to put the grain in, right?
A lot of grain.
So she holds it out, and he measured out 6 measures of barley. What's the measure? That's the question of the hour, ain't it? So there are several possible measures that we can use here. Ephah, so if the ephah is used as the measurement, then it would have been anywhere from 180 to 300 pounds.
Let's not do that.
How could she carry that?
I rejected that option. The next possible one is an omer, which is 1/10 of an ephah. So that would be anywhere from 18 to 30 pounds,
That's still a lot.
which is a lot, but
But she's been working.
very doable. Think about that first day when she brought home all the barley, we said it was anywhere from 30 to 50 pounds. So, it's possible. It could be a seah, which is 1/3 of an ephah. Which is essentially 60 to 100 pounds, which is more. So, if it was 60, I think it's possible. It could also be just sort of general scoops, like he took the other 2 handfuls, or like there was a cup there, and he just whatever the measurement was, he just sort of shook it out. There is no actual way to know. I personally lean toward either the one which is 18 to 30 pounds or the one which is the handfuls, just because Ruth is on this stealth mission, and Boazs is trying to get her out kind of fast, and he's like, get out before they can recognize you. She has to carry it back up to the city for it to be 60 pounds. That's just a lot.
Ellie says between 58 to 95 pounds.
And guys, I'm gonna be real. Like, I'm pretty strong, but
Yeah,
y'all.
she carried a bunch back earlier when she
she's gotta
was
be
working all
stronger.
night. Man, she carried
Yeah,
a big
but she is trying to be stealth. That is so true, though.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that.
So,
Who knows? It's not
so
important. If God doesn't put it there, I say that's what I say.
right. It's not important. He does have to put it on her, so I think I lean toward the 18 to 30 pounds because, like, whenever we're going backpacking, like, whenever you got that 30-pound backpack, it's nice if somebody helps you put that backpack on. So, those are the possibilities. I go with the 18 to 30 pounds. If you think of something different, that's fine. Go with that. So, in any case, it's a very generous gift. It's a very generous gift. And so we're going to come back to the gift in a moment. So hold on to the gift. It's going to wrap back around. So finally, before we move on to the next slide, then she went into the city. Why is she highlighted, you might ask? Well, because there is some debate as to whether the word she should be there or the word he should be there. Yes. Yeah. So in the Masoretic texts, which is the more reliable version of basically the original language scriptures, they have he. And then the Latin Vulgate, which is a translation, and then the Syriac version of the Old Testament have she, and they think that it was, they looked at it and they're like, oh, that can't be right, and they corrected it, or they thought they changed it. So no matter which one it is, they eventually both went back to the city, so you're like, okay, well, whatever. But we're going to see in a moment that Naomi and Ruth are talking already, and so we know that Ruth and Naomi are back in the city. So again, it's possible that she is the correct interpretation. It's possible. But if it's he, then it emphasizes back to what Boaz said, where he says, today in the morning, I'm going to get this done. So I'm resolving today. I'm going to get back there, hightail it back to the city. This is getting done today.
She went before anybody woke up.
Yeah, I mean, they both went back to the city. They both did. They both did. That's the emphasis here.
But go until, till everybody was there that needed to be there.
It's possible, but it's, again, that's the debate that's in this verse, which doesn't factor, it's not consequential, it's not salvation, but it's just interesting. Okay.
Back to the town.
So either way, they end up back in the city. So let's continue forward to verse 16. And when she came to her mother-in-law, Naomi said, "How did you fare, my daughter?" Then she told her all that the man had done for her, saying, "These 6 measures of barley he gave to me. For he said to me, 'You must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law.'" She replied, "Wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out. For the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today." So, Ruth comes back, and Naomi's like, "So, how did it go?" Now, remember, we've been focusing on Ruth this entire time and on her nerves, but think about poor Naomi, who's back at home. She's just like, she's checking the watch that doesn't exist, and she's just like, checking the moon. She's like, and she's waiting to see if, she can see any shadows. Did Ruth just come crying back up the hill? What's going on? So she wants to know, what's the deal? What happened? Tell me what's going on. So, Ruth tells her the summary, everything that happened, and she gives a little bit more information. So these 6 measures of barley he gave me, for he said to me, "You must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law." Guys, this is just great. Again, Boaz is great. So Boaz is sending a message to Naomi. He knows that she's involved. He knows that she sort of at least knows about it, if not played a hand in it. And he wants her to know it's okay. Hey, I'm committed. I'm in. Whether this was a bridal promise gift that, hey, this is a pre-marriage gift, or sort of like a showing intent to redeem, or something else entirely. In any case, it was a gift intended for Naomi so that she could be like, okay, he's okay with the plan. Great. Cool. Awesome. So Boaz is again, yeah.
When they were back in Moab, she talked to them to say the marriage would be arranged in their mother's kitchens. Mm-hmm. Would that be a similar tradition here? He's sending food back to the mother's kitchen, it's an arrangement.
That's possible. Marriage? I didn't see that in any of the commentaries, but that's possible.
I don't know if it would be Jewish as well as Moabite.
No, I mean that's possible. Like I said, I didn't see anything about that, but that could be. I mean, in this culture, food is
It's like money.
It's correct. It's the money. It's what you traded with. You traded grain. You traded lambs. You traded the chickens. So the food is what you use to send all of the messages, to send all of the money. It's the thing. So the message that he's sending is very definitely, hey, something's in the works. Whether it's a specific tradition or not, again, I'm not completely sure. That's a great area to wrap back around into. But definitely he's sending that message that, relax, Naomi, we're good. Everything's in the clear. If I can make it happen, I will. And I think that, paired with all that he has said to Ruth, paired with everything that Boaz has done for Ruth and Naomi up until this point, is what enables her to say, the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today. I really want to combine these 2 words together. My brain really wants to do it. Saddle. But we'll settle the matter today. So Naomi says, you know what? take a chill pill, hang out, and wait to hear the rest of the story, which is what we will be doing as well until next week. So, homework, we're going to be starting into chapter 4. We are matched with Kelly Minter's book with the readings, so it will just be doing Ruth 1 through 6 of chapter 4, and then days 1 and 2 of session 5. I will leave this up so that if you need to return to it, it'll be posted on Facebook, it'll be in your email. I may even send it out in text. I can't make any promises, though, because my brain does not hold information that's not biblical stuff. So, I may send it out by text, I may not. This is your homework. Does anybody have any questions before we split?
What's gonna happen?
I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Who's the other redeemer?
That's a really fun thing that we will talk about next time. So, any other announcements?
Let us know about Esther.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's no bad.
let us know about Esther. All right, if you're with me, split.